From Washington, this is VOA News. I'm Joe Palca reporting. A debate for Democratic presidential hopefuls. After watching Republican candidates spar in 2 rounds of debates, Democrats looking to become the next U.S. president got their turn at a first debate of the 2016 election campaign in Las Vegas. Former governor from the state of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, is one of the candidates who'd hoped to gain a little traction from his performance in the evening debate.
On this stage, you didn't hear anyone denigrate women. You didn't hear anyone make racist comments about new American immigrants. You didn't hear anyone speak ill of another American because of their religious belief. What you heard instead on this stage tonight was an honest search for the answers that'll move our country forward.
Will Perryman is a Las Vegas resident and a Bernie Sanders supporter who brought his daughter to the event.
I want the world to see what Bernie's talking about. He's not as well known as Hillary. He doesn't have the financial backing that she does, but he has the people, as you can see. And so hopefully I want Bernie's face to get out there and for him to show, like he's always good in front of the camera. He's always good and answers always the questions well. So I'm just hoping people get a chance to see him.
Recent polls put Hillary Clinton ahead with about 40% support. U.S. officials say they can see no strategy behind Russia's military intervention in Syria, just short-term buttressing of President Bashar al-Assad's faltering armed forces that will fail and trap Moscow in a quagmire. Syrian opposition politicians, however, worry the Kremlin's strategy is to maneuver the West into endorsing a peace plan that would end the Syrian revolution and even the breakup of Syria. In interviews with VOA, several opposition leaders said they fear Western fatigue and U.S. wariness over escalation will lead Washington to agree on a peace deal prematurely. This is VOA News. 3 Israelis have been killed in a new wave of shooting and stabbing attacks by Palestinians in Jerusalem and elsewhere. The Israeli cabinet has authorized police to seal off troubled areas in Jerusalem. Robert Berger has more.
The escalating Palestinian attacks on Israeli civilians come at a time of stalemate in the peace process. Peace talks broke down last year, leaving Palestinians frustrated and despairing of their goal to create an independent state. Israel says it is prepared to return to the negotiating table today without preconditions. But the Palestinians say Israel's expansion of West Bank settlements and its refusal to withdraw to the 1967 borders means there is nothing to talk about. Robert Berger, Jerusalem.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says he will travel to Israel and the Palestinian territories due to the escalation of violence there. The White House says Iran likely breached United Nations rules when it tested a long-range ballistic missile last weekend. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said there were strong indications that Tehran did violate UN Security Council resolutions that pertain to Iran's ballistic missile activities. But the White House spokesman added that those violations are entirely separate from the historic nuclear deal reached between Iran and world powers. Iraqi forces have been slowly preparing for months to retake the provincial capital of Ramadi from Islamic State militants, and as VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb reports, the U.S. says the time is now for Iraqi forces to make that final push into the city.
Iraqi security forces squeezed tighter around Anbar's provincial capital Ramadi, advancing 15 kilometers in the last week. The push came as the U.S.-led coalition launched 52 airstrikes in or near Ramadi in the last 10 days. Coalition spokesman Colonel Steve Warren.
A combination of the recent successes that they've had, along with the increased air power and increased ISR that we've allocated to the Ramadi fight. We believe that now is the time for a final push.
U.S. officials say Iraqi forces have encircled Ramadi, covering all 4 approaches into the city. Carla Babb, The Pentagon.
The American Civil Liberties Union is suing 2 former U.S. Air Force psychologists, James Mitchell and Bruce Jessen, who together designed a harsh interrogation program for the Central Intelligence Agency. The suit is in behalf of 3 former prisoners, one of whom died in custody. The Civil Liberties group accused the psychologists of developing an interrogation regime that reside on beatings, sleep deprivation, starvation, waterboarding, and other methods. Joe Palca reporting from Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.